Good morning, everyone. Our lesson for today on Quarter 2, Module 2, Lessons 1 to 4 is about the use of the microscope. I prefer to record this lesson so that we won't miss a thing on the 4 lessons that we are going to take up today. Okay? Now, these 4 lessons are Lesson 1, how to use the microscope. Lesson 2, how to focus your microscope. Lesson 3, what's my power? And then Lesson 4, the proper care of the microscope. Let me begin with the first lesson on how to use the microscope. Actually, class, when we were discussing about the different types of microscope and when we came into the discussion of the compound microscope, I remember mentioning to you about the different uses of the microscope. And as we go along in our discussion, I have already mentioned some tips on how to properly use the different parts of the microscope. But since this is lesson 1, let me share it with you one by one. Okay? Now let us begin with how to handle or how to carry the microscope using your both hands. Okay? Using the arm of the microscope, you grasp it with your right hand, then always carry it with your both hands so that your left hand is positioned under the base of the microscope. This way, it will help you not to jiggle the microscope to prevent the displacement of the different lenses of this microscope. While your left hand is supporting the base of your microscope, be careful to put it down on a flat surface. Okay? You put your microscope 1 inch away from the edge of a work table, like this one. 1 inch away from a work table. Okay? Now, you check on the revolving nose piece of your microscope. You have to hear the clicking sound so that you are made sure your microscope is in focus. Next, very important that we use the glass slides and the cover slip in preparing the specimen to be viewed under the compound microscope. By the way, class, there are 2 kinds of specimen that we are going to prepare. We have the wet mount and we have the dry mount. Obviously, what's the difference between wet mount and dry mount? If it is wet mount, you are going to use the slides, the glass slides with addition of liquid using small stick or medicine dropper. Okay. There may be some specific purpose of making the specimen wet. Then later, I'm going to teach you on how to use the cover slip. And then we have the dry mount. The dry mount obviously doesn't need to use any liquid to view the specimen under the microscope. But still, again, you have to cover it with the cover slip. Okay, so those are the 2 kinds of the slides or the specimen, the wet mount and the dry mount. Alright, let us continue with the different functions on how to use the microscope. Okay. Let us now examine the 3 different lenses of the microscope. The shorter one is the low power objective. The larger one and the longer one is the high power objective. And then this one is the oil immersion objective. Take note, class, that not all microscope has the same appearance of the oil immersion objective. There may be some, the appearance of the oil immersion objective varies depending upon the type of the microscope. But take note that the low power objective is shorter and it is smaller than the high power objective, which is quite larger and longer than this one. And it is marked then, the low power objective 10 and the high power objective 40. Now, depende pa rin because there is some microscope that may have higher magnification. Okay, so this one has 10 and the 10 for the low power objective, 40 for the high power objective. Okay. Now class, in using the lenses of the microscope, we've got to use the slides for the specimen. By the way, we have two different kinds of specimen when using the slides, no? This one is the glass slide, this one is the cover slip. Partner parati yan, lati magkasama. Okay. There are two kinds of specimen, as I have said. We have the dry mount, and then we have the wet mount. Obviously, if it is wet mount, there is liquid on it. It may be used for staining, it may be used for the enlargement of the object. This liquid may be put or addition, we may be added to the slide or to the specimen using a certain stick or medicine dropper, liquid dropper. Okay. And then you cover it like glass. When using the microscope, we have to look on the side before putting down the objectives. So let us begin using the low power objective. But first, let us place our specimen on the stage. Carefully, let us hold this using the stage clip. Okay? And then in focusing, you look on the side with your elbow supporting your body so that there will be no accident on spilling the specimen or an incidental event that you may throw the microscope on your side. Now you may now put your low power objective using your coarse adjustment knob. You may put it down there, like that. Now, you may now start viewing the specimen using the ocular eyepiece. Okay. When using the ocular eyepiece, you are advised to use your right eye, but with your left eye open. That is not to strain your left eye. But class, it's not a law anyway. So if you're comfortable using both eyes open, it's all right. But if you're comfortable looking at the specimen with your left eye closed, there's nothing wrong with it. You can do so. Okay, now you can check if the specimen is already in focus. Class, you may what do you call this? You may touch your specimen. Class, take note pag ginalaw mo yung specimen mo, if you pull it down, it will appear on your microscope that it is pulled up. If you're pulling it on the left, it appears to your microscope that it is going to the right. I hope you get me. It goes on the other way around. Again, if you pull it on your left, as if it appears going to the right. If you're pulling it down, as if it appears going up. Okay, there's another way of viewing it. Since it is a dry mount, be careful and make it sure that your stage clip is holding your specimen. You can tilt the microscope this way so that you can see the specimen. Now, class, whether it is on a tilted position or in an upright position, before viewing the specimen, you are advised to position the mirror so that the best light is collected. You may also use your diaphragm and your condenser so that you get the best amount of light to make your object come in focus. I hope that is very clear. Okay? You find the greatest source of light so that you can collect it and focus the object under the lenses that you are using. Alright. Now class, on the side again, you pull up so that you can position the high power objective. Now we are going to use the high power objective, but again, be sure that you hear the clicking sound as you use the revolving nose piece and positioning the high power objective. Now I hear the clicking sound. Now, again, I'm going to put it down. Why should it very important that I have to look on the side? It's because I should be very careful not to touch the specimen. That's another reason why we always use the cover slip so that we prevent the touching of the specimen on the lens of the microscope. Now, if it is already in focus, you can now use your fine adjustment knob. Okay. Pwede mo na itong gamitin para na nun mas makita mo yung clear view of your specimen. Okay. If you're going to use the wet mount, you are not advised to tilt the microscope because the liquid may spill on the illuminator, on the mirror, or the diaphragm that may later on damage the microscope. So you just peep on the ocular eyepiece when viewing your wet mount or your wet specimen. Alright? Next, class, take note that you can only use the fine adjustment knob when you are using the high power objective. Okay? Now, if you are done examining your specimen, you can now remove it from the stage. Okay? By removing the clip, putting it up using the coarse adjustment knob, carefully removing the slide, and then set again your microscope to the low power objective. Okay? Put it back. Okay? Next, it is very important to remind the class that never touch the lens. No? Never touch the lens. Once you are through using your microscope, you are advised to clean, first and foremost, the stage of the microscope using microscope tissue. Okay? Never touch the lens of the microscope when cleaning it. Okay? And then, you are now ready to keep your microscope in its designated position inside its special box. No? Put it back on its box. And then, set your microscope on low power objective and then put it down with your mirror in this kind of position. Standing position. Why? To avoid accumulation of dust around it. To avoid accumulation of dust. And then your diaphragm in this position so that it is already closed. Alright, so those are very important things that you have to remember in using your microscope. It is a very expensive scientific instrument, so you are advised to handle it properly and carefully so that you can use it for many years. That's all about the lesson 1 of module 2. Now we are going to lesson 2 of this module on how to focus your microscope. Now let us continue with lesson 2. In lesson 1, we discussed the different steps on how to use the microscope. Okay. Now we are going to discuss now in lesson 2 on how to focus your microscope. This activity should be done at home if there is an available microscope. But pretty sure not everybody can afford to have one, so let me perform this experiment for you. Okay. Lesson 2 activity is entitled Virtual Microscope. Okay. We're not going to use the virtual microscope, but instead, I'm going to use the microscope available here in our home. Okay. It has something to do with focusing an object using wet mount. No. Now, the two objectives are focus and view the specimen using the different objectives of a compound microscope. Compare the images of objects seen by a naked eye and as observed under the microscope. Okay? Mga materials na kailangan, of course, the microscope, the cover slip, the cutout letter E, the water, picture of letter E, glass slides, medicine dropper, and then the tissue paper. I have tissue paper here. Okay. Okay. Class, here's what letter E, or how's letter E look like from a newspaper before preparing it on a microscope slide. Okay. Ganyan. Diba? This is how letter E looks like. But, now, let us follow the procedure. Let us follow the procedure. Sabi niya, cut out letter E that can find from any section of an old newspaper, anywhere actually. Place the letter E faces up in the center of a glass slide, normal reading position, and add a drop of water using the medicine dropper. Slowly put a cover slip on the web, positioning it at a 45 degrees angle until it touches the drop of water. This is to avoid the bubble formation on a glass slide. Glass ganito. If, so, example, meron na ako dong letter E, halimbawa lang, I have already letter E there. Okay, sige, gawin natin ha. Gawin natin. Hindi ko na kailangan kumuha sa newspaper, adi magka-cut na lang ako ng letter E ko, di ba? Okay. Say for example, I have this letter E. Then, let me put it on a wet mount. Dahil lang ha, I'm going to show it later. Okay. Now, let me put a small amount of water on letter E. Okay. Can you see it? Using your glass light, position it on a 45-degree angle. Okay, class, hindi mo basta itatakip pala. Position it on a 45-degree angle like this. Okay. So that you will avoid the formation of bubbles. Okay. That way. Okay. Look at that. There's no bubble. So the entry of the glass slide should be at the 45-degree angle. Until it touches the drop of water. Again, this is to avoid the bubble formation on the glass slide. Prepare the slide on the microscope stage. Paano ulit ang gagawin? Okay. On the side, looking at the side, position the low power objective up using the coarse adjustment tab before putting your specimen. Okay. Again, sabi ko sa inyo, to keep it on its place, you have to use the stage clip. And then, before looking at the ocular eyepiece, look on the side, put it down, and then, you're now ready to view it. It's wet mount. Can I tilt it? Of course not. So, I'm going to stand up and look at the ocular eyepiece using my right hand. Again, I can use my elbow to support my body to avoid accident. And then, hindi ako sanay gagamit ng dalawang mata. So, I'm using my right hand eye only. Now, I'm going to collect the light using my mirror, my illuminator, my diaphragm, and my condenser. Okay. Now, it's clear. I have to move my specimen up and down so that I'm sure it is in focus. When I'm pulling it down, it's going up. When I'm pulling it up, it's going down. On the right, it's to the left. To the right, it's going to the left. Okay. Now, it's in focus. I'm going to clip it again. Let me change the low power objective to high power objective. Again, let me pull it up using the coarse adjustment knob. What should you remember? In changing the low power objective to high power objective, you have to hear the clicking sound. Now it's on high power objective. Let me put it down again. While looking at the side, and then I'm going to peep on the ocular eyepiece, and then let me manipulate it by using the fine adjustment knob so that it will come clearly in my focus. Yan. Now, let me share to you, class, that I am seeing letter E in this position. Okay. That is how letter E looks like while I am performing the experiment. Okay. Okay, class, we are through explaining lessons 1 and lesson 2 of module 2. Now, let us have module 2, lesson 3. Okay, this is entitled, What's My Power? Class, it has something to do with computation. Okay? Please note that ocular eyepiece most of the time has magnification 10 times. I already told you this. But there are some magnification of 5 of the other microscope, so that you have to compute the magnification when viewed under the when using the ocular eyepiece and the lenses here. Okay, class. Lesson 3 is just a computation of the magnification using the, as I have said, using the ocular eyepiece, the low power objective, and the high power objective. Ganun lang kadali yun. No? Okay? Okay. If the eyepiece is 10 times, and the objective lens is 40 times, how many magnification would it be? Yan, that's correct. 400 times. Okay? Say for example, you have kuto. Okay? And then, you see it under the microscope. It's very, very small. No? But if you view this under the low power objective 10 times, and then 10 times ocular eyepiece, meaning if you see it clearly, that means you're seeing it 100 times bigger. Ganun lang kadali. Yun lang ibig sabihin. So, you multiply the ocular with the objective lenses. That's how you see the magnification of the object being examined. No? Being examined. Okay. Of course, when you are using the high power magnification, the object becomes bigger in appearance when viewed under the microscope. Other than using lenses and magnifying them into your desired magnification, you may attain the best focus of your specimen when the light is collected properly, and when the object is focused properly, and when the adjustment knobs are used correctly. Otherwise, you may not see clearly the specimen that you are going to view. So it's not only the amount of magnification, but very important factors also are the light and the focusing attitudes that you are doing in your microscope. So that's lesson 3, and now we are moving on to lesson 4 of module 2. Class, this is the last part of module 2 in quarter 2. The lesson 4 entitled Proper Care of the Microscope. Let me read it to you one by one. Okay? Moving or transporting the microscope should be accomplished by again grasping the arm of the scope in one hand and supporting the weight of the microscope with the other hand. This avoid sudden jolts and jars and jiggling at the microscope. Now, keep the microscope clean at all times. When not in use, microscope should be enclosed in a dust-proof cover or stored in their case. I have a proper case used in this microscope so that after using it, I'm going to use it in that box. Remove the dust with a camel hair brush or just a simple brush, malambot. Lenses may be wiped carefully with lens tissue. When the oil immersion lens is not being used, remove the oil lens tissue using oil solvents such as saline on lenses only when required to remove dried oil and only with the minimum amount necessary. Now next, Never use alcohol or similar solvents to clean the lenses. It will damage the lens. Refrain from handling the microscope with wet hands to avoid accumulation of moisture. The first thing being damaged are the lenses, so that there are accumulation of fungi inside the lenses when it is moistened. Always carry the microscope with both hands in an upright position. Again, it is always being emphasized that you grasp the arm with one hand and place the other hand on the base for its support. After using the microscope, clean and dry, making sure that the eyepiece is in line with the scanner. Place the microscope in its box, place it inside the cabinet for safekeeping. Never remove the silica gel from the box to prevent moisture, and keep the microscope dry. That's all for the 4 topics of the module 2 in quarter 2. I hope you guys have learned something on this video. Thank you very much and have a good day. I'm going to send the different assignments in our GC for you to answer from after this lesson until 11:30 a.m. Goodbye and thank you, class.